You're listening to the Comic Bookster podcast, your source for comics, past, present, and future.
Dragged from what could be any comic shop in the United States to host this incredibly nerdy podcast are some of the most enthusiastic comic book readers ever assembled. They are the Comic-Booksters, dedicated to discussing news, speculation, and recommendations for all comic buyers.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Comic Booksters, your one-stop shop for comics talk, past, present, and future. Once again, I'm Nerdcore, he's Obi.
Welcome back to Comic-Booksters.
And we've got a lot of books to talk about this week.
A ton.
We'll get started with the one that we're going to talk about probably the least, or at least there's only 2 issues to talk about as opposed to all the massive rebirth stuff that we have to cover with Marvel Civil War 2. Finally got my hands on a copy of Civil War 2 number 1 and was able to grab Civil War 2 number 2 this week as well. Obi, Civil War number 2, what do you got to say?
Couldn't it have just been called Iron Man?
Yeah, I will say, this is the most that I've liked Iron Man in quite some time. Really steals the show, really comes off as an interesting character. Kind of makes me want to check out Invincible Iron Man, because if this is the way that Bendis is regularly writing him, well, I kind of dig it.
So, spoiler alert, like always.
Yeah.
Rhodey
is dead. But I got the impression we've known that since Free Comic Book Day, pretty much.
Yeah, but you still don't have the answer on She-Hulk, which is annoying.
It is. I'm going to be upset if they kill She-Hulk, because she is, quite frankly, my favorite superheroine. But I always take issue when they kill off my favorite characters, and then they generally do something really cool and bring them back. I mean, I was kind of miffed at Morrison when he killed off Batman, but that ended up being some great storytelling.
I don't know. There's not a lot captivating about these issues. They're just... Maybe I was just not that much into Marvel anymore. I'm having a hard time gelling in the Marvel universe. Even though these events should seem big, like Rhodey dying or She-Hulk dying, it doesn't touch me.
Well, yeah, and I think, we're not the only ones who've experienced that disconnect. Today I shared an article from IGN, which really just kind of encapsulated how I feel about the Marvel Universe at this point. I'm just not feeling such of a connection. And their sales are beginning to drop off with every relaunch, too. So maybe we're finally ending there's going to be a relaunch every year phase, new number ones all the time, which for me is kind of a relief. I honestly appreciate the higher numbers on my books.
Yeah, I like that, going back to Rebirth, that DC went back to that with Action and Detective, putting the numbers back on those books.
But as far as anything else with Civil War 2 number 1, outside of the characterization of Iron Man, there really isn't too much to these books. I mean, I feel like almost everybody else feels kind of like a cardboard cutout in comparison.
Captain Marvel's got some personality to her, but the rest they're...
I don't feel like she has it to the extent of Tony, though.
No. Tony's driving these books. Big time. Which was the same for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so it makes sense, I guess.
If anything, he reads more like Robert Downey Jr. in these books than he's read in any other books.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's really all I have to say about Civil War 2 so far. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep with it. Don't know if it's going to be something that I read regularly at this point. I might just wait for the trade.
I think I'll get this in trade.
Yeah. Though I kind of got to know what happened to She-Hulk, man.
I was thinking that too, because I was like, if he doesn't get number 3, maybe I'll pick up 3. But I'm like, they're not going to put that answer until like book 6, and I'm just not going to buy till book 6.
True. Well, guess we'll find out. I'll find out the day that it comes out in stores, and I'm sitting there looking at it.
Well, you'll know like the 2 days before someone will have it on.
Oh yeah, because Marvel has to make everything a newsworthy item. They'll spoil it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of these days, people are going to accuse us of just favoring Rebirth and that we should just rename this the Rebirth Podcast because we talk about it so much.
I was thinking about that the other day, and then I don't know if you saw the September stuff leaked out today for DTC.
I did, but I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
The big thing that there's coming back to a Trinity ongoing.
I did know that was announced previously, and I was interested in reading that simply because Francis Manipul's on it.
And another cool thing I saw in there was a Raven one-shot, it looks like.
which I believe Marv Wolfman's writing.
Yeah, Wolfman's doing. So I definitely want to read that.
I'll have to take a look through the solicits. I'm sure there's other stuff that I'll be intending to pick up. I've been reading almost all of the Rebirth stuff so far, but I think most of my stuff comes out in June and July. I think the August and September books, I may have not gotten nearly as many of those.
I think most of my stuff's late July, early August.
But let's get started. How about we talk about who's probably the breakout star of Rebirth as far as an increase in quality in his book, at least on my end. I know you were a little disappointed with the initial Rebirth issue, but let's talk about Green Arrow, which issue number 1 just came out.
Yeah, that issue was totally changed my mind on that. I actually tweeted to Ben Percy and got a like from Ben Percy actually on my tweet, like saying that was great. I had a big smile on my face by the end of that issue, especially because I love Shadow, and having Shadow back is going to be awesome.
Yeah, but how about that twist with Amiko? This entire thing where she has been, I guess, playing all over this entire time.
Yeah.
Really liking the relationship between Green Arrow and Black Canary. Honestly, man,
I really like that they separated.
yeah, Canary's going to be coming back into the fold.
Yeah, she's going to be the one that finds him shot with arrows, so yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I honestly think I would have, I didn't have the problems you had with the initial Rebirth one-shot for Green Arrow, but I honestly think that I would have kind of preferred a cold open of them just being together like they were in this issue than having that set up from the Rebirth one-shot. I could have, as a person who's familiar with Green Arrow for so long, I think I could have forgiven just them suddenly being together and kind of have maybe like a story running in little brief flashbacks of how they initially got together in this than the setup that was given to us in the Rebirth issue.
Yeah, I don't know, that Rebirth issue I have issues with, but this issue, keep going, Percy. You're awesome.
I also really appreciated the art style. I thought it was...
yeah, the art is very reminiscent of Hester.
Yeah, which Phil Hester was just amazing when he was doing Green Arrow with Kevin Smith and Brad Meltzer. Yeah. Moving right along, how about we talk about The Flash? Because Flash Rebirth was supposed to be the big follow-up to DC Universe Rebirth number 1.
Which it was.
Yeah. I know you weren't a fan of the art. I didn't mind it. I thought it was cool. I thought there were some cool homage panels to it. I didn't think it was terrible.
There's good pages, and then there's some really bad pages.
I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it on the whole. I'm really interested to see where Edmondson goes from here with this story. I'm glad that you were able to get a copy of it to provide to me because it filled in some blanks that I had between DC Universe Rebirth number 1 and Titans number 1.
By the way, it's really hard to find that issue. I had to end up getting it on Comixology to read.
Yeah, our local shop and the other local shop.
And in Harrisburg and in Baltimore.
Yeah, as we visited Harrisburg Comic-Con this past weekend, the first Harrisburg Comic-Con, and while we were there, visited some shops in the area. They didn't have it. Obi here went down to Baltimore with his family, apparently stopped by some shops. They didn't have it. So, Comixology it was for us to be able to read this issue. I really enjoyed Barry's characterization.
Can't wait to actually have a physical copy.
Yep. I really enjoyed the interplay between him and Wally and him and Batman. I thought those were the strongest parts of the issue.
Yeah, him and Wally parts were really big. And it made me really kind of remember how much I missed Wally.
Yeah, well, Wally's always been my favorite Flash. Always one of my favorite comic book heroes.
That's just because you're silly.
Why? Why is it so silly that I like Wally West?
It's Barry. Barry's Flash. It's just Barry's always the Flash.
I grew up with Wally, man. I read his books for so long.
I get that.
I formed between Wade's Flash and Morrison's JLA, and then the Jeff Johns run. Like, even, when I started reading it was Messenger Loeb's on Flash, and I really enjoyed his work as well. I just always had a soft spot for Wally. Which is funny because when I first started reading Flash, I was familiar with the Flash from the live-action TV show where Barry Allen was the Flash. So when I was not Barry, I was really confused as a kid, but I grew to love Wally. Character is awesome.
Oh, I'm not saying he's a bad character.
I feel like he's kind of the heart and soul of the DC universe.
That's kind of what they... And well, if we want to tie this into Titans now, that's kind of what they're telling you, is he's like the soul of the DC universe.
Yeah. Real quick, we'll talk about Titans next, but back to Flash. I did like Barry's characterization, and it made me miss Barry interacting with Batman. Like, I never really realized how much I really appreciate when those two characters interact. But the fact that you're building a detective story, and Barry's obviously a CSI, Batman's the world's greatest detective, the fact that we are now getting teased that they're going to be working together on this case, which I'm sure isn't going to be like happening in either of their main series. It may pop up here and there, but when it does pop up, I'm really going to be looking for it, because I just enjoyed the setup, and I think that the interplay is going to be great between the two characters.
Yeah, I really like that too. I'd like to see some more of that for sure.
The case, of course, which we're referring to, is that both of them know that someone has stolen time and love from the DC universe. Batman has the comedian's pin. Wally has made reference to Dr. Manhattan, though not directly, but it's going to be the Flash and Batman, apparently, who are going to be tracking down the mystery of the Watchmen's involvement with the New 52 and Rebirth, which is just an exciting prospect. It's hella cool.
Now, if you want to go back to we were saying the Titans issue,
which I really enjoyed.
That was really good. I really did enjoy that issue, which is weird because I don't think I've read Titans in years.
Remind me to let you borrow the run of Titans Hunt, which directly preceded this. Same writer with Dan Abnett. Was a really good series. Highly enjoyed it. That was where their whole fight with Mr. Twister happened. But, oh man, Titans with Wally finally revealing himself to the Titans and all of them getting their memories back. You get a little glimpse into their backstory with Wally and helps establish what his role in this rebooted continuity from the New 52 was before he vanished. But Wally, let's keep in mind, is really Barry to an extent, but Wally's really the only character who remembers the pre-New 52 universe outside of Superman.
Well, until the Titan members start touching Wally, and then they start remembering.
They start remembering him, but I don't think that they actually remember the pre-New 52 universe. I think they remember the continuity of the New 52 universe. So that's what I got from it.
I don't know. I think that this would go into another. Well, I'll bring it back up when we talk about Wonder Woman. But it was a really good issue. I really liked Wally interacting with those guys, and almost makes me want to read Titans.
Almost?
Yeah.
Well, if you don't, I'll be sure to let you read my copies.
Oh.
Because I'm super excited for that, because I'm going to get to read about Dick Grayson and Wally West in one book. I really enjoy their friendship. I really love Donna Troy as a character and Roy Harper. I don't know what it is about those kids' sidekicks. Like, I guess it goes back to when I was growing up reading Wally as the Flash. Even though New Titans, I think, was kind of on the downswing as I came into comics at that point, I still came in when those characters were really coming into their own as their own solo heroes outside of that team. And I just have a really high affinity for those kid sidekicks, or former kid sidekicks, I should say. The second, I guess they're third generation heroes, because if the JSA is going to be back, they're the first generation.
Right.
The Justice League's the second, the Titans are the third. But once again, I believe that was Brett Booth on art. Yeah, it was Brett Booth, written by Dan Abnett. And I'm going to give this to Brett Booth right now, is that this is the first time, and I've given Brett Booth a hard time a lot. I mean, certainly he can draw better than I can, but I've never really dug his artwork in any book I've read. This book, I highly enjoyed Brett Booth's artwork. I really did, and feel remorse for the previous times that I've come down on him, but I thought it looked good.
That was a good looking book, yeah, that's for sure.
Move on. You were going to bring up
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman. Sure, let's talk about Wonder Woman Rebirth. Another one that we had trouble getting our hands on. But we actually got physical copies this week.
Yeah, great issue. I don't know about for you, but I really like it because it brings up her trying to figure out what is her true story. I really enjoyed this issue, and I think she, like, going back to discussing who figures out what's going on. I think she might be the first one to figure out what's going on in the DC universe.
It's quite possible. I mean, between Wally and Bruce and Barry and Diana, and we'll talk about the Superman books, but with his interaction with Mr. Oz, I feel like all of those characters are following different threads that are going to eventually unravel this mystery. So thank God most of them are in the Justice League, right?
Yeah.
But Wonder Woman, I like the issue a lot. I'm really excited to see where it goes. For me, it was almost too on the nose as a transitionary book. I'm not sure how exactly to describe it, but the fact that she was acknowledging all these storylines and how she doesn't even know who she is anymore, I feel is almost stating reader confusion, or potential reader confusion that there could be regarding that character, a little too much.
I mean, I could see how you could think that easily.
But then again, as someone who knows Wonder Woman, certainly not as much as our friend Ember, but as someone who knows Wonder Woman and knows how many different origin revamps she's went through, for me, it was almost a little too much. But that is overshadowed by the fact that I am so happy that Greg Rucka is back on DC, working on this character, and the book just looks great.
The art is probably the best book, art-wise, I've seen in Rebirth. I went and read it again just to look at the pictures.
I'm still partial to Mikkel Janin on Batman Rebirth. I thought that was really good, but I'll give it a close second to that issue.
That's number one for me.
So, moving on, actually just brought up Superman, so how about we talk about Superman in Action Comics, which you didn't read Action Comics, but I did, and I immediately got my wish of New 52 Lex Luthor interacting with pre-New 52 Superman. And, your prediction that it wasn't going to go well for Lex, so far not really panning out.
Oh?
Because, full disclosure on this issue, Lex shows up in Metropolis wearing Superman's shield and cape and declares himself the new protector of Metropolis. Declares himself the new Superman. Pre-New 52 Superman, which I guess from here on out we should just call him Superman.
Yeah, he's Superman.
Decides this isn't going to stand and makes the public aware of his presence. Luthor declares that he's an imposter, and the two of them fight, but Luthor holds his own, and the only thing that really stops them is the fact that Doomsday, it looks like classic Doomsday, shows up. But Luthor is actually, out of the two of them, trying to be the more reasonable human being.
Well, I mean,
yeah, Superman's a Kryptonian, but he's trying to be the more reasonable person.
and then again, there's still Clark's long history with Lex, so he's not going to be reasonable when it comes
And
to
then
Lex.
there's also this mysterious new Clark Kent that shows up to cover the battle between Superman and Luthor. Jimmy Olsen's there and quite frankly states everyone knows that you and Superman were the same person. How is this possible? And he just goes, don't worry about Jimmy. I'm back. It's me. It's Clark. So there's just this budding mystery with this great action set piece and another mystery with Doomsday. There's a little bit of Mr. Oz thrown in there. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm really intrigued to see where it goes. Now, you and I both read Superman #1.
The parenting issue.
Parenting issue, which, of course, you can identify with a little bit more than I can.
Yeah.
That being said, I have high hopes for this book if this is the direction it's going to go, because I really enjoyed Pete Tomasi and Pat Gleason's Batman and Robin from the New 52, which really focused on the parenting dynamic between Bruce and Damian. And while John Kent is, or John White, or John Smith, whatever his name's going to be at this point, I just want them to be the Kents. Call me a purist, whatever you want, but Superman is Clark Kent. Lois Lane's Lois Lane, or Lois Lane Kent, or whatever you want to call her. But I'm going to refer to them as the Kents because I can't help myself. But John Kent is definitely a different animal, so to speak, than writing Damian Wayne is. Mm-hmm. But he is a more well-adjusted kid, I want to say, than Damian ever was. And he's dealing with these burgeoning powers. I mean, honestly, the scene where he accidentally kills
His cat
while trying to save it from the Hawk is pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah, this book is darker than I would have imagined, because they tried to keep it. They kept saying that Rebirth was going to be like lighthearted, and for a Superman book, this was dark.
Yeah. However, I think the one spot that wasn't dark, and rightfully so, was the characterization of Clark, Superman himself. I feel was very well characterized in this book. And while he certainly wasn't dark, he was serious. I mean, as a parent, and I feel if you're raising a superpowered child, you have to have that serious demeanor. But I really liked his portrayal. It was really refreshing. It was classic Superman.
It was a good book. I really am interested to see where it happens between him, Wonder Woman, and Batman, now that they're taking his son to get testing, interview. I'm not sure what they're doing there.
I guess we'll find out. Maybe he'll meet the League.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get some setup to Super Sons with him and Damian.
Maybe he gets put with the Titans.
Maybe. He's not advertised for the book, so who knows, but that can always change. But this is the most interested I've been in the Superman titles, at least the two core ones, Superman and Action Comics, for quite some time.
Since the relaunch.
Now, I'm not, I didn't like Grounded all that much, so I kind of fell
Grounded
off.
was bad.
But, I did read it during the New 52, especially with Greg Pak and Aaron Cooter, or Cutter, I don't know. Somebody, if you know how to pronounce his last name, send it to us. Tweet it to me at Nerdcore Night on Twitter. Tweet it to us at Comic-Booksters on Twitter. Please, someone solve the mystery. But I did enjoy that run, but I'm really enjoying these books right now, and I'm more invested in them than I have been in literally years. So, Green Lanterns.
Green Lanterns. That's an interesting book.
How do you feel? I know we both liked the Rebirth one-shot.
I'd like this issue a lot.
Me too.
It's really nice to see the dynamic of them, like, because their speech bubbles, seeing what each of them are thinking about how the other one's acting like a fool.
Simon Baz really has a chip on his shoulder. I'm not saying that the character shouldn't, given his background, but really has a chip on his shoulder. And I feel like it's coming out. He really doesn't want to be on Earth because of the stigma against Arab Americans.
And Waller holding the ring over top of his head.
Yeah, and if he leaves Earth, everything goes away.
Right.
And unfortunately, Hal needs him on Earth, and that's where he's stuck. So he's kind of in a pigeonhole, and Jessica's still pretty new to the ring, newer than even Simon is.
Right. Yeah, but he is hot-headed for sure, and she's too slow to action. So them working together seems like it's going to work out well overall once they eventually learn that they both have their positives and negatives.
Yeah, and that's what I really like about this book. It's the classic buddy cop dynamic, but it's with Green Lantern rings. Like, I totally like that. And this is two characters. I mean, Baz was given some character development in John's Green Lantern run. Jessica Cruz was given some character development in John's Justice League run. And now Sam Humphries really has an opportunity to add more to those characters and really make them his own. And having those two just kind of show the spotlight of the series is just really beneficial to not only the characters, but to him as well as a writer. It gives him a lot of room to play with.
I'm really liking this series. I think the series has got nowhere but up to go.
And it's already pretty high, so...
Yeah.
I think we just have Batman left?
Yeah, Batman, which is a weird issue.
Well, we've got the latest issue of Detective Comics by Tinian, and we've got Batman #1 by Tom King and David Finch. You didn't read Detective, I did. I really like the setup they went through. I like their characterization of Clayface a lot, with him trying to reform and also all the Bat family grappling up and going over the city, and Clayface just being like, well, what am I supposed to do? I like the reveal that Kate Kane and Bruce Wayne are cousins, and the reason that Batman has recruited Batwoman to help assemble this team and train some of his less experienced recruits is the fact that Kate was enlisted in the military and has the capacity to be able to work more as a team player than Batman admits that he can. So I really like all those dynamics. I really like the fact that they have Batman recognizing flaws in himself. Really like that Batwoman's being used. Always a fan to see Tim Drake, and I've got a soft spot for Spoiler and Cassandra Cain. So, decent issue. I did see an image from one of the advanced solicits. I think we might get a little bit more on the Joker mystery in Detective Comics that was set up in Rebirth. Batman #1, highly enjoyed. I will say this for David Finch. Wasn't a huge fan of his stuff on Forever Evil. Definitely wasn't a fan of his Wonder Woman work. That man was born to draw Batman books.
It was a good-looking book, yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, just bombastic action, and every pose with Batman is just gold. And I highly, highly liked how much of the Batman mythos, how many ideas of it were kind of just encapsulated in Batman #1. Not only from the comics, but from television shows and films as well. I recognize some call-outs to the Dark Knight trilogy in there, especially when he's on the plane fully willing to sacrifice himself before that cliffhanger where Gotham and Gotham Girl show up with superpowers and level off the plane.
Yeah, that's what threw me. The book was great, and then that happened, and then I was instantly taken out of Batman.
Well, why is that?
I just don't know. Maybe it's because I don't know who Gotham and Gotham Girl are.
Well, they're brand new characters.
Yeah, so...
A major theme of the book, especially with the gentleman who was freaking out on the plane that was crashing, was that Gotham City, unlike Metropolis or Coast City, doesn't have a defender that can fly in with superpowers and automatically make things right. They have to rely on Batman, who, as we saw, was more than up to the task.
Right.
But now we have Gotham and Gotham Girl as new heroes in Gotham City, and they're more in line with the power set of Superman or Green Lantern or Martian Manhunter or whoever, Wonder Woman.
They can fly, and they seem to be super strong.
Exactly.
That's all we know so far.
But as we know, Gotham City has a tendency to morph and change to kind of combat any kind of defender that shows up. So, if you get somebody who's superpowered and wants to be all good, how long until Gotham turns that on its head? From the advertisements and the solicits, pretty sure we're going to see these new characters at odds with Batman, and I think they're going to end up being probably great additions to his rogues gallery. And it's going to provide us with a really decent examination of why Batman, once again, is the hero that Gotham City needs, as opposed to someone of the power set of, say, Superman or Wonder Woman.
What if they don't get added to his rogues gallery? What if they just become another part of his team?
And you know what? That could even be a more interesting story.
Because
we'll see.
He always has a hard time getting along with people with superpowers.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to disagree. So, like I said, I'm just going off of speculation based on solicits and advertising. So, once again, Rebirth on the whole, as we keep going on this journey down this rabbit hole.
Only for a few more weeks, because it drops off drastically soon, those number ones.
Well, what do you think? So far, with the new batch of books, high point, low point.
It's great. It's definitely what you should be reading if you want to read single issues.
Yeah, more invested in... I'm a DC guy, more invested in the DC universe now than I have been in years, and I'm really loving everything I'm reading for the most part. Best series so far?
Green Lanterns.
Green Lanterns? Okay. I like Green Lanterns. Personally, I'm sticking with Batman. But, I mean, that's almost if it wasn't broke, don't fix it, and they certainly didn't need to fix it.
I mean...
So I'm going to set that one aside, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm honestly going to say Titans.
Yeah, I mean, Green Arrow, it's great to see Green Arrow going in the right direction, but I'm going to read Green Arrow no matter...
Yeah, and that's the reason why I set Batman aside, was because no matter what, I'm pretty sure to love Batman every time.
I'm not even that I'm going to love it, but I'm going to read it because it's Green Arrow. But Green Lanterns, I like this buddy cop dynamic. I really do.
I'm just finally glad with Titans to see characters that they consciously kept apart for so long after this relaunch brought back together. It just feels right.
We can all agree. I think even most places, and DC themselves have basically come out and said it. New 52 just didn't work. And it wasn't even supposed to be New 52, apparently. I don't even know if you heard that whole story. It was only going to be the Hopeful 48. That's what it was initially titled, until, I forget who came. Someone came along and was like, let's go with 52, because we use 52 in everything else. I'm serious.
And for a couple months it worked, and then it fell right back off. And I'm hoping we're not dealing with that with Rebirth, but I feel a lot better about the stuff that's come out of Rebirth than initially what came out of the New 52.
Yeah.
So far, every book that's come out of Rebirth that I've read, I've loved, which I think I've actually read every issue of Rebirth now, but...
Yeah, you have.
I was reading every issue of New 52 because we had opened the shop and I was trying to keep up on everything when it first came out. And by the time all those books launched and it was all said and done, I think I only really enjoyed about 10 of those books.
On New 52, I read 10 to 12 books, and I want to say after 3 months I was down to 5.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Comic-Booksters. Feel free to go ahead and subscribe. We're on Podbean, we're on Stitcher, we're on iTunes, and go ahead, check out Civil War II if you'd like. It was an okay book. We're raving about Rebirth, so make sure you keep checking that out. And if you have any type of suggestion on stuff you would like to hear about, things you think we should read, just let us know. I'm Nerdcore, he's Obi.
Keep reading books.
Thanks again for tuning into the Comic Bookster podcast. We would love to hear from you with feedback and suggestions. You can send those to us by email at thecomicbooksters@gmail.com or on Twitter @comicbooksters. And be sure to follow us on Facebook. So long, everybody.